These enterprises must enter the market with a regional mindset and not just doing a business in Singapore itself. Singapore will remain pro-innovation, but with a higher expectation on resilience and governance for companies and enterprises that wants to enter the market. For my practical experience, there are typically four core drivers. So the first one would be regulatory clarity and stability that Singapore can offer. And it offers predictable, transparent policy frameworks for global enterprises, regulatory certainties, which reduces the strategic risk for companies. So number two, Singapore offers a financial ecosystem with depth. So it's a full stack ecosystem that comes with banks, fintech, investors, legal firms, payment networks, and regional treasury capabilities. These are all integrated within Singapore. And Singapore has very strong geographic and commercial connectivity in terms of proximity to ASEAN's different countries and major financial hubs, while it also remain globally connected to the US, China, and Europe. Number four would be the talent and infrastructure quality. So in Singapore, we have a strong governance, there's strong IP protection in terms of digital infrastructure and multilingual talent that the global enterprises can tap on. So if you go by strategic differences of enterprise type, typically e-commerce platforms, they focus on cross-border payments, efficiency, logistics connectivity, and regional treasury centralization. And their priority is to speed, to scale, and having a multi-currency settlement optimization. While financial institutions, they prioritize regulatory credibility and licensing structure. So in this way, Singapore enhances trust, capital access, and global expansion positioning. For trading companies, they mostly focus on tax efficiency, trade finance access, commodity financing, and treasury optimization. So these type of companies will treat Singapore as a financial control tower. So in summary, Singapore is a same location, but there's different strategic lenses for different enterprises to look at. MAS in Singapore operates on the principle of innovation with guardrails. So while it encourages growth, but also it insists on disciplined risk management. So this influences enterprises in three key ways. The first one is that there's early compliance integration. So companies design the compliance into product architect from day one, and it's not an afterthought. Number two, there's scalable licensing strategy, and there's many firms that begin with a MPI, major payment institution, or standard payment institution structure, but they are designed for future cross-border expansion. Number three, there's long-term capital planning. So MAS capital and safeguarding requirements shape the treasury planning and liquidity buffers. So this type of regulatory environment rewards serious players and long-term planning. So this filters out short-term operators and suss out any illegal operations while strengthening long-term credibility. From planning to implementation, I typically see this sequence. Usually the regulatory pathwork decision on the license type, exemption strategy, and sandbox consideration. Number two would be considering the banking and the safeguarding structure. Because for enterprises, if they secure a long-term banking relationship, it's a critical pacing item in their expansion and growth. Next, they will look at the technology architect, right? For building versus a partner decision. Any API integrations for systems, compliance systems, fraud monitoring, and KYC infrastructure will be key to help these enterprises grow. The last one will be a scheme and network integration. For example, in Singapore, we have very wide cross-border rails and a very robust payment network for Visa, Master, and PayNow. And we have a framework, internal governance, for AML policies and reporting system. So the priority ranking is usually from regulatory to banking access and then the infrastructure build of the company versus the commercial rollout. And without such alignment, especially tech to banking, it's difficult for growth to happen. I would recommend a 4 strategic direction. Firstly, these enterprises must enter the market with a regional mindset and not just doing a business in Singapore itself. Because Singapore, as having the geographical advantage, works best as a command center for ASEAN. And as mentioned earlier, also linked to other global companies and markets like the US, UK, and China and Europe region. So number 2 is to plan in advance. Because MES values proactive dialogue and they like transparency with the partners that they work with. So transparency will accelerate trust and allow the company to grow and obtain licenses faster. The third one is to build long-term partnership with our Singapore business network, banking network, and co-partners that allows the company to scale. And the company would lastly need to invest in a strong compliance system and framework upfront, because it's not just a competitive advantage in Singapore. They shouldn't see it as a cost. So Singapore, in summary, rewards long-term builders and not opportunistic entrants into the business scene. Well, for enterprises to plan ahead in terms of their strategies to enter Singapore, I think this year onwards, 3 to 5 years, there's going to be 5 major shifts. Firstly, there will be an increase in regulatory sophistication in digital assets and stable coins, and basically there's going to be a clearer framework to attract institutional participation, but with rising compliance standards. And there would be a stronger cross-border payment integration with ASEAN by interlinking real-time payment systems, and this will accelerate regional commerce growth. There's also a higher capital and risk management expectation. Because the cost of operation in Singapore is high, enterprises that's going to come to Singapore needs to tighten or have risk prevention plans when it comes to certain financial disasters. There's also going to be AI governance integration into financial services. Compliance will be increasingly hard, which include algorithmic accountability. Singapore is going to have a greater consolidation in fintechs. So only firms and enterprises with sustainable economic strength and compliance foundation will be able to scale. The overall direction is that Singapore will remain pro-innovation, but with a higher expectation on resilience and governance for companies and enterprises that wants to enter the market.